You've been waiting for them your whole life. You've prayed, you've prepared, you've positioned yourself perfectly. Your heart is ready, your life is aligned, and then it happens. They walk in. The person you've been asking God for. The one who checks every box, meets every standard, fulfills every prayer you've whispered in the quiet moments. But there's one devastating problem. They're married. They're taken. They're committed to someone else. And suddenly, you're left staring at heaven asking the question that cuts deeper than any rejection ever could. God, why would you show me the right person at the wrong time? The timing feels cruel. The revelation feels like torture. And the silence from heaven feels deafening. Because this isn't just about being single anymore. This isn't about waiting for someone unknown to arrive. This is about seeing exactly who you've been waiting for and realizing you can't have them. This is about discovering God's perfect plan and watching it slip through your fingers because of timing you can't control. But what if I told you that God's timing isn't late at all? What if the very moment that feels like divine cruelty is actually divine strategy? What if seeing the right person at the wrong time isn't God's mistake, but his masterpiece? Because sometimes God has to show you the destination before he can complete the journey. Sometimes he has to reveal the promise before he can finish the preparation. And sometimes he has to break your heart with possibility so he can rebuild it with purpose. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most painful yet purposeful experiences a believer can face. When God shows you exactly what you've been praying for, but tells you to wait. When his yes comes wrapped in not yet. When his promise arrives with a patience requirement attached. This isn't about settling or second choices. This isn't about God changing his mind or forgetting his word. This is about understanding why sometimes the right person shows up too late and why God's timing is still perfect, even when it feels devastating. Number 1, God shows you the standards so you stop accepting substitutes. When God allows you to see the right person at the wrong time, he's not teasing you. He's teaching you. He's showing you exactly what he has in store, so you'll stop settling for anything less. Think about it. How many times have you been tempted to compromise? How many times have you looked at someone who was available, interested, and present and thought maybe this is close enough? Maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe I should just be grateful for what's in front of me. But when God gives you a glimpse of his perfect plan, everything changes. Suddenly, every substitute looks exactly like what it is. A substitute. You can't unsee what real looks like once you've seen it. You can't unfeel what right feels like once you've experienced it. That person God showed you becomes the measuring stick against which everything else is measured. And nothing else measures up because nothing else is supposed to. Consider Moses on Mount Sinai. God showed him the promised land from a distance. Deuteronomy tells us that God let Moses see the land with his eyes, but told him he would not cross over. Cruel? It might seem that way, but that glimpse gave Moses something powerful. It gave him unshakable confidence in what God had promised his people. He died knowing exactly what they were walking toward. He left this earth with absolute certainty that God's plan was real, specific, and worth every step of the journey. That's what happens when God shows you the right person too early. He's giving you unshakable confidence in his plan. He's proving that what you've been praying for isn't just wishful thinking. It's divine destiny. And now that you've seen it, you'll never again question whether God really has someone special set aside for you. You know he does because you've looked them in the eyes. Number 2, seeing them reveals what still needs to be prepared in you. Here's what most people miss about divine timing. It's not just about when they're ready. It's about when you're ready. And sometimes God has to show you your future to reveal what's still missing in your present. When you see the right person at the wrong time, pay attention to what happens inside you. Pay attention to the fears that surface, the insecurities that scream, the patterns that emerge. Maybe seeing them makes you realize you're not as healed as you thought. Maybe it exposes areas where you're still broken, still carrying baggage from the past, still operating from wounds instead of wholeness. Maybe it reveals that you're not financially prepared, emotionally mature, or spiritually grounded enough to handle the blessing God wants to give you. This isn't condemnation, this is compassion. God loves you too much to give you something you're not ready to steward well. He cares too much about your future to rush your preparation. That right person you saw, they deserve the best version of you. And if you're honest, you want to be the best version of yourself when they finally become available. Joseph understood this principle. He had dreams of greatness, visions of his destiny, glimpses of his future. But between the dream and the fulfillment came years of preparation, prison, betrayal, false accusations, forgotten promises. Why? Because the Joseph who had the dream wasn't ready for the palace. The teenager with visions needed to become the man with wisdom. The dreamer needed to become the deliverer. When God shows you the right person too early, He's showing you your palace. But He might also be showing you that you're still in your prison season. Still being prepared, still being refined, still being positioned for the responsibility that comes with the blessing. Number 3, it teaches you to trust God's process over your preferences. Nothing will test your faith in God's timing like seeing exactly what you want and being told to wait for it. Nothing will challenge your trust in His plan like watching the right person live their life while you live yours separately. This is where most people either grow in faith or grow bitter. This is where you either learn to trust God's process or start trying to force your preferences. The temptation is real. When you know they're the one, every day they're not with you feels like a day wasted. Every month that passes feels like time stolen from your future together. Every milestone they reach without you feels like a missed opportunity. And the enemy whispers lies about God's faithfulness, about His promises, about whether He really has your best interests at heart. But this is precisely when your faith muscles get stronger. This is when you learn that God's delays aren't denials. His not yet doesn't mean not ever. His timing isn't late, it's strategic. And sometimes the very thing that feels like divine cruelty is actually divine protection, keeping both of you safe until the moment is perfect for both of your stories to merge into one. When you're in this season, everything in you wants to rush God's timeline. You start calculating. If we met now, we could be together by next year. If they were available today, we could start building tomorrow. If God would just move a little faster, we could have the life we're supposed to have. But God doesn't operate on your calendar. He operates on His character. And His character demands that every piece be perfectly positioned before the masterpiece is revealed. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, showed them descendants as numerous as the stars, gave them a vision of their future. But then came decades of waiting, years of watching their bodies age past natural possibility, seasons of wondering if they'd heard God correctly. And in their impatience, they tried to help God out. Hagar and Ishmael became the consequence of trusting their preferences over His process. The right promise rushed, became the wrong problem multiplied. That's why God sometimes shows you the right person, but makes them unavailable. Because He knows what happens when we try to force His promises into our timeline. He knows the damage that comes from premature blessing. He's protecting both of you from the chaos of His will done in your way. Number 4, their unavailability is preparing them for availability. While you're focused on your own preparation, remember that God is working on both sides of this equation. That person you saw, that right person at the wrong time, they're in their own season of becoming. They're learning lessons they need to learn, healing wounds they need to heal, growing in ways they need to grow before they can love you the way you deserve to be loved. Maybe they're in a relationship that's teaching them what real commitment looks like. Maybe they're walking through challenges that are building character they'll need for your future together. Maybe they're discovering parts of themselves they never knew existed, parts that will complement the person you're becoming in ways you can't even imagine yet. God isn't just preparing you for them, He's preparing them for you. And if they became available before that preparation was complete, you might get a version of them that isn't ready for the depth of love God has planned for your union. You might receive them before they've learned to treasure what they have, before they've developed the spiritual maturity to lead where God is taking you, before they've healed from whatever broke them in their past. David understood this principle. He was anointed king years before he wore the crown. God showed him his destiny through the prophet Samuel, but then came years of running from Saul, hiding in caves, leading a band of outcasts. Why the delay? Because the shepherd boy who was anointed wasn't ready to rule a nation. He needed battles to build his courage, wilderness to build his dependence on God, and rejection to build his compassion for the broken. When God shows you the right person too early, he's showing you your crown. But both of you might still be in your cave season, still being shaped by circumstances, still learning to depend on him in ways that will make your future together unshakable. Number 5. It's building your testimony for others who are waiting. Your story of seeing the right person at the wrong time isn't just about you. It's about every person who will come behind you, every believer who will face the same test of faith, every heart that will need to hear how God's timing proved perfect even when it felt painful. Right now, someone is watching your response to divine delay. They're observing how you handle seeing the promise, but being told to wait. They're learning about faith from your faithfulness, about trust from your endurance, about God's character from your choice to believe even when you can't understand. So when the right person shows up too late, remember this. God's timing isn't broken, it's brilliant. His delays aren't denials, they're divine strategy. And that glimpse of your future wasn't meant to torment you, it was meant to transform you. Trust the process, embrace the preparation, and know that when the moment is perfect, everything will align. Your love story isn't late, it's right on time.